Welcome back to our channel. The year was 1978, a time when the United States was navigating through the echoes of a changing decade. The economy was recovering from inflationary pressures, the cultural landscape was evolving, and yet the minting of coins remained a constant. Small metallic tokens that passed from hand to hand, often unnoticed, but quietly reflecting the nation's history and craftsmanship. Among these coins, the U.S. dime carried the legacy of its design, a slender, silver-toned disc bearing the profile of Franklin D. Roosevelt on its obverse side, a tribute to the president who led the nation through the Great Depression and World War II. The reverse, featuring a torch flanked by olive and oak branches, symbolized liberty, peace, and strength. In 1978, the U.S. Mint struck millions of these dimes at its Philadelphia and Denver facilities, each one produced by powerful presses that stamped the designs onto metal blanks with precision. The composition was a clad sandwich of copper and nickel, giving the coin its characteristic color and durability. This production was routine, standardized, and, on the surface, free from irregularities. Yet, as is often the case in the complex world of coin minting, slight imperfections could arise, unnoticed amidst the sea of perfectly struck pieces. The story of the 1978 dime error began subtly, quietly, as the mint's presses churned through thousands upon thousands of coin blanks. One such error was a type known among collectors as a broad strike, a coin struck without the protective collar that normally constrained the metal during the strike. Without this collar, the metal could spread outwards beyond the intended rim, creating a noticeably larger diameter and a flattened, broad appearance. Though broad strike errors had been documented in earlier decades, the 1978 version was rare due to improved quality control. Roger Matthews was a coin collector with decades of experience. He had started collecting coins in his youth, fascinated by the stories behind each design and the thrill of discovering something rare. One rainy afternoon, while sorting through a batch of dimes he had purchased at a local coin shop, Rogers practiced. "I caught something unusual. A particular 1978 dime seemed different not just in wear or luster, but in size and feel. It was noticeably thicker and broader than the others, with the design pushed outward toward the edge." Roger's heart quickened. Could this be a broad strike error? Pulling the coin closer to the light, Roger examined the details under his magnifying loupe. The raised edge was absent or faint, replaced by a smooth, wide rim. The inscriptions and design elements appeared slightly stretched, as if the coin had expanded under intense pressure without the usual metal boundaries. He reached for his scale and calipers, measuring carefully. The diameter exceeded the standard 17.91 millimeters, and the weight was off by a fraction. These measurements, though small, confirmed his suspicion. This was indeed a broad strike error. The emotions that surged through Roger were a complex mix of excitement, disbelief, and cautious optimism. He knew that while broad strike errors were known, their rarity, especially in the 1978 dimes, made them valuable. However, he also understood that the market could be fickle, and that the coin's condition and provenance would significantly affect its desirability. This was not just about owning a piece of history. It was about the potential recognition and validation from the numismatic community. Determined to learn more, Roger reached out to fellow collectors and experts, sharing detailed photographs and measurements. Responses ranged from admiration to skepticism, as some questioned whether the coin was post-mint damaged or artificially altered. To counter this, Roger documented the coin's provenance and the source from which he had purchased it, establishing a clear chain of custody. This careful documentation proved essential as the coin slowly gained attention. Over time, the story of the 1978 broad strike dime began to spread beyond niche collecting circles. Coin auctions started listing examples of the error, and as collectors began to recognize the rarity and authenticity, demand increased. Early sales of these coins were modest, often a few $100s, reflecting a market still testing the waters. However, as more verified examples surfaced and grading companies began officially recognizing broad strike errors from this year, the value began to climb steadily. several factors influenced the coin's value evolution. The overall condition played a major role. Higher grade coins, with sharp details and minimal, were commanded premiums. Provenance also mattered, as coins with well-documented histories reassured buyers of their legitimacy. Moreover, the broader trend in numismatics toward appreciating modern mint errors helped fuel interest, as collectors sought to diversify beyond classic rarities. The broad strike error affected the 1978 dime's design and rarity in a unique way. Physically, the coin was larger in diameter, with the metal flowing outward unchecked by the collar. This caused the outer rim to flatten or become irregular, and sometimes the lettering near the edge would appear distorted or stretched. Because the collar also controlled the coin's reeded edge, the series of vertical grooves around the rim, the broad strike could result in incomplete or missing reeds in certain areas. These characteristics became identifiers for collectors and grading experts. But what truly elevated the intrigue around the 1978 broad strike dime was an unexpected twist that emerged years later. In the early 2000s, a collector named Lisa Hernandez discovered a specimen that appeared to combine the broad strike error with a rare double die phenomenon on the reverse side. The double die effect results from the die itself being impressed twice in misaligned positions, causing a doubling of the design elements. Lisa's coin exhibited faint but unmistakable doubling on the torch and branches on the reverse, a feature virtually unseen in 1978 dimes. The coin's obverse displayed the broad strike characteristics, expanded diameter, flattened rim, while the reverse bore the double design. This combination was unprecedented, merging two distinct minting errors on a single coin. The numismatic community was captivated. Experts analyzed Lisa's coin, confirming the authenticity of both errors. Grading services issued special designations, and auctions featured this coin as a unique variety. The discovery reignited interest in 1978 dimes and introduced a new layer of complexity and rarity. Collectors began searching more intensely, hoping to uncover additional examples of this double error. The market responded with increased enthusiasm and higher price points. Coins exhibiting just one of the errors sold well, but those with both, like Lisa's, fetched significantly higher bids, often several $1,000s, depending on condition. The 1978 dimes error saga thus transformed a seemingly ordinary coin into a prized artifact of minting history. It embodied the delicate interplay between human craftsmanship and industrial precision, where even a minor deviation in the minting process could birth a treasure of immense fascination. Collectors who owned these broad strike dimes found themselves part of an exclusive club, custodians of a piece of Americana that carried the imprint of both chance and skill. The coins were a tangible reminder that within the countless millions minted, rare moments of imperfection could emerge, turning the ordinary into the extraordinary. This ongoing narrative encourages collectors to look beyond surface appearances, to scrutinize each coin's details, and to appreciate the stories hidden in metal. The 1978 broad strike dime, especially those with the rare double die reverse, invites us to explore the rich tapestry of errors and the endless possibilities lurking within the mint's presses. As the years pass, the value of these coins continues to reflect their rarity and allure. From modest beginnings to remarkable auction prices, the journey of the 1978 era dime illustrates how a single discovery can shift perceptions, inspire collectors, and redefine what we value in the world of numismatics. This coin is not just currency, but a story of history, error, discovery, and the thrill of the hunt that lies at the heart of collecting itself. In 1990, the rhythm of American coin production marched on like clockwork. The Philadelphia and Denver mints, in tandem with the San Francisco facility for proof issues, dutifully struck millions of dimes bearing the profile of Franklin D. Roosevelt, his sharp gaze cast leftward, a symbol of progress and resilience. It had been over 4 decades since the Roosevelt dime was first introduced in 1946, and by now, the coin's design and specifications were so routine they barely raised an eyebrow. A 10-cent piece was simply that, a tool of commerce, small in stature, universally accepted, and instantly forgettable once it clinked into a pocket, but history has a way of hiding its most fascinating chapters beneath layers of familiarity. And within the ordinary lies the potential for the extraordinary. From an unremarkable run of dimes minted in 1990 emerged a whisper, soft, nearly inaudible at first. Collectors thumbing through coin rolls noticed nothing amiss. Dealers who studied hundreds of these coins every week saw no reason to pause. The Roosevelt dime had long been a reliable workhorse, its copper-nickel cladding resilient, its obverse and reverse well known. The torch, flanked by olive and oak branches, was as American as the stars and stripes. For months, maybe years, the anomaly slumbered within drawers, jars, and bank bags. No headlines, no murmurs, just silence. Then came the ripple.it was not a seasoned expert who made the first discovery, but a young collector named Brendan. He was neither well known in numismatic circles nor particularly experienced. What he did possess was curiosity insatiable and precise. Brendan had taken up a quiet hobby of coin roll hunting, often spending weekends examining dozens of dimes, looking for silver edges or double dies. It was methodical work, more meditation than excitement. That changed one overcast afternoon when his magnifier caught the edge of something strange. The coin was lighter in appearance, almost ghostly pale compared to its neighbors. It lacked the mirror finish of a proof, yet something about it shimmered differently. More curiously, the familiar S mint mark, the tiny indicator denoting a proof coin from San Francisco, was absent. He flipped it over. No abrasions, no signs of tampering. The strike was sharp. In fact, too sharp. Brendan didn't understand at first. Proof coins, those specially made for collectors, always bore the S mint mark in that era. But here was a 1990 dime with all the hallmarks of a proof strike: crisp edges, defined relief, yet it was missing the telltale sign. He consulted his catalog, then cross-referenced mint production records. Something didn't add up. Proof dimes from San Francisco in 1990 were minted specifically for inclusion in annual sets and always bore the S. The absence of that letter wasn't just a curiosity, it was an impossibility. Or at least it should have been. Word spread slowly at first. A post on a numismatic forum. A blurry image uploaded with skepticism trailing in the comments. But as more eyes studied the piece, something extraordinary took shape. Brendan hadn't found a damaged coin. He'd uncovered a legitimate 1990 proof dime that had somehow escaped the San Francisco Mint without a mint mark, a coin that by all accounts should not exist. Theories abounded. Perhaps the mint mark punch had failed. Maybe it was a transitional error. Or even more baffling, had the die been polished so aggressively that the S was removed entirely? But experts quickly noted that the rest of the coin showed no signs of such abrasion. The details were intact. The fields mirrored. The strike was bold. Whatever had happened, it had occurred at the source, not after the fact. Collectors and grading agencies began to take notice. PCGS authenticated the first known example as a proof strike missing its mint mark, an error that immediately piqued interest across the community. It was a numismatic unicorn, an official mint product created through an undocumented, highly specific procedural error. Suddenly, Brendan's find wasn't just a rare dime. It was a story. The market responded with caution at first. How many of these existed? Was it an isolated case or the tip of an iceberg? Early valuations hovered in the high hundreds, then crept upward. One sold privately for $3,000. Another was auctioned for nearly twice that. Collectors with sealed 1990 proof sets began breaking them open, examining their dimes with newfound urgency. Could they, too, be holding a fortune? Then came the spike. By 2003, only a handful of no-mint-marked 1990 proof dimes had been confirmed, fewer than a dozen. Each discovery was accompanied by a rush of excitement, but also a deepening mystery. How did they slip past inspection? How many more might still be hidden in unopened sets, tucked away in attics or filing cabinets? The supply was finite, but the demand only grew. Prices soared. One particularly pristine specimen, graded PR69, fetched over $20,000 at public auction. What made the error so electrifying wasn't just its rarity, it was its stealth. These coins weren't discovered in circulation or hoarded silver rolls. They lurked in seal-proof sets, indistinguishable until opened and examined with care. The very sets meant to guarantee uniformity had, by some unseen twist of fate, birthed a rogue. The irony wasn't lost on collectors, and still, the full truth remained elusive. Then came the twist. In 2011, a government employee retired and, emboldened by anonymity, contacted a numismatic researcher with a startling recollection. During a period of transitional retooling in early 1990, a die without a mint mark was mistakenly mounted on a press intended for proof dime production. Quality control caught the issue quickly, or so the belief went, but not before a limited number of no mint mark proof dimes had been struck and assembled into proof sets. But here's where the story diverged. According to this source, the mint had internally debated whether to recall the affected sets, but opted instead to remain silent, believing the odds of discovery too remote to warrant action. In other words, the error had been quietly buried beneath bureaucratic discretion. Collectors reeled. This wasn't just a mechanical oversight, it was a secret, tucked beneath layers of official silence, quietly accepted by those who'd sworn to uphold minting precision. The idea that the government had allowed an error to circulate without acknowledgement shifted the tone of the narrative. The 1990 no mint mark proof dime wasn't simply a misstep, it was a whisper of institutional imperfection, made all the more valuable by its intentional obscurity. By now, fewer than 20 authenticated examples had surfaced. Auction houses treated them with reverence, often highlighting them alongside gold rarities and historic pattern coins. Values fluctuated with market trends, but the general arc was ever upward. A sale in 2015 eclipsed $35,000. Another, quietly handled by a private estate, reportedly topped $40,000. Yet the most astonishing price would come just years later, when a deep-pocketed collector, seeking to complete the most pristine modern proof dime set ever assembled, offered an eye-watering $76,000 for a perfect specimen. The offer was accepted. The dime changed hands. Still, even in the midst of such figures, a haunting question lingered. How many remain lost in unopened proof sets? How many gift boxes from 1990 hold this secret, their owners unaware of the silent rarity tucked inside? It wasn't just coin collectors who took interest. The story captured the imagination of casual hobbyists, estate appraisers, even journalists. The dime, tiny and nearly weightless, had become a numismatic paradox, a coin both ubiquitous and nearly unattainable in its error form. And in its center lay a conundrum: how a system built for precision could still birth anomalies so profound they echoed decades later. As for Brendan, the discovery changed his life not financially, but fundamentally. He didn't sell his dime. Despite being offered tens of thousands, he chose to keep it. Not in a bank vault, but framed on his wall, above the desk where he still examines rolls each weekend. He went on to become a respected name in the hobby, not because of what he found, but because of how he found it: through persistence, patience, and an unwavering belief that the rarest things are often hidden in plain sight. Today, collectors continue the hunt. Every unopened 1990 proof set is a Schrodinger's box, holding either a common coin or a treasure disguised as one. Each unsealing carries suspense, each magnified glance the potential for revelation. The 1990 no mint mark dime remains one of the great enigmas of modern U.S. coinage, not just for what it is, but for what it represents. A moment when a silent flaw slipped through the gears of a perfect machine, carrying with it a secret that time refused to erase. And even now, decades later, somewhere in a forgotten drawer or overlooked envelope, another might be waiting. Quiet. Ordinary. It was just another day in Denver in the early spring of 2004, when the familiar rhythm of the U.S. Mint's machines roared to life. The dime, a modest, 10-cent piece with a legacy tracing back to the Coinage Act of 1792, rolled off the presses by the millions. At a glance, there was nothing extraordinary about these dimes. They bore the usual Roosevelt profile, a design by John R. Cynic, with a torch, oak branch, and olive branch on the reverse, symbolizing liberty, strength, and peace. Since 1946, Americans had carried these dimes without a second thought, using them for bus fares, candy bars, or to feed parking meters. No alarms rang, no headlines flashed. The year 2004 passed quietly in the numismatic world until, years later, something surfaced. Among the waves of coins minted that year, a small number bore a quiet, almost invisible difference, one that would not be noticed immediately. At first, it slipped through the hands of tellers, clerks, and children collecting pocket change. A seemingly ordinary dime rested in a change jar, then another was dropped into a vending machine. Yet, embedded within some of those dimes was a story waiting to be told. Not in the luster of their metal, but in their edge. Something was off. It took time, as these anomalies often do. The first hints came from a casual collector, a man named Frank Caldwell, who had recently returned to coin collecting after decades away. It wasn't a high-profile treasure hunt that led him to it. Just a rainy Saturday afternoon and an old mason jar of change. Frank didn't rush. He never did. Each coin was gently examined beneath his desk lamp, spinning slowly between his fingers. He didn't expect to find anything more than a few wheat pennies or the odd silver dime from before 1965. But then he saw it. A 2004 Roosevelt dime that felt different. It didn't sing the usual metallic chime when dropped. It was dull. The edge, which should have revealed a copper-nickel sandwich of metal layers, was oddly smooth, almost creamy in tone. No ridges. No reading. Just a flat, seamless edge. Frank blinked. Turned it again. Could this be blank planchet? A worn coin? Or something else entirely? Puzzled, he reached for another dime, comparing them. One had the familiar grooves. The other flat and unnerving in its difference. Not worn, but clean, deliberate. Frank's heart thumped in quiet excitement. Could this be a misstrike? An error coin? He consulted his 2004 Red Book, scanned online forums, and reached out to a local coin club. The responses varied. Some dismissed it as post-mint damage. Others urged him to get it authenticated. But one response stood out. If it's what I think it is, you may have stumbled onto a rare mint error. They don't show up often. Get it slabbed. Authentication confirmed the truth. It was a missing clad layer. Error, an elusive defect where the outer nickel layer is absent, exposing the copper core. But this was no partial loss. The entire clad layer was gone on one side. A full obverse missing clad dime from 2004. That meant during minting, the dime planchet had somehow bypassed part of the bonding process, resulting in a coin that looked, felt, and sounded different. Frank was stunned. He held a mistaken officially sanctioned accident that had survived quality control and entered circulation. Word spread slowly at first. Error coin enthusiasts began searching their change. A few more surfaced, mostly from Denver mint batches. Each bore similar traits: dull color, unusual weight, missing reading, or a single-sided clad layer. But they were few, scattered, and always discovered by chance. Frank's dime was not the only one, but it was among the first, and soon became a reference point in collector circles. At a local auction in 2007, Frank watched nervously as his dime was presented. Bidding started modestly, $50, $100, $180, then crept up. A seasoned collector on the phone joined. Then a dealer from Arizona. The price hit $600 before settling at $875. Frank, stunned, felt a strange mix of disbelief and pride. He had never intended to sell it, but curiosity pushed him forward. And the outcome proved what he suspected. This dime was no trivial oddity. It was a prize. As the years passed, the 2004 missing clad dime developed a life of its own. Listings occasionally popped up online, backslash $1, 200 here, backslash $1, 500 there. But prices were unpredictable. Condition mattered. Authentication was essential. And the market, always in flux, made valuations a guessing game. Some were content to flip the coins for quick profit. Others clutched them tightly, sensing their future value hadn't yet peaked. Then came the twist. A collector named Rachel Medina, known for her detailed error coin blog, acquired a 2004 missing clad dime through a private trade. But as she examined it under magnification, she noticed something odd beyond the missing layer. Roosevelt's profile, normally smooth and balanced, had an unusual doubling around the eye and ear, a faint shadow of design beneath the surface. She documented everything and submitted the coin to a specialist at PCGS. The response was staggering. The coin, it turned out, not only had a missing clad layer, it also featured a rare form of doubling, a Class 6, distended hub, doubling, a kind of design anomaly where features swell slightly due to faulty die preparation. It wasn't just an error coin. It was a compound error, a double strike of minting missteps. The rarity multiplied exponentially. Suddenly, the world of 2004 dimes wasn't just about missing clad layers. It was about the hidden layers of minting chaos no one had fully uncovered. The market responded with feverish curiosity. Could there be more double-error dimes out there? Collectors began re-examining their pieces. Forums lit up with macro photos and debates. Auction houses adjusted their descriptions, and prices soared. A standard missing clad dime in mint state now commanded backslash $2, 500. A verified double error like Rachel's? One sold quietly in 2018 for over backslash $9,000 through a private broker. But even that wasn't the peak. In 2021, a high-profile auction in Chicago featured a 2004 dime that combined the full obverse missing clad layer, complete reverse reading, and double die obverse. It gleamed under glass like a relic of ancient history. Bidding opened at $5,000. 10 minutes later, it hit $18,000. When the final hammer fell, $27,600. Gasps filled the room. Whispers followed. How could a 10-cent coin command such weight? The answer was layered just like the coin was supposed to be. The physical characteristics of the error itself made it immediately intriguing. A missing clad layer wasn't just cosmetic. It altered the color, weight, even the acoustic signature. Coin testing machines rejected them. Vending machines spat them out. Metal detectors rang strange alerts. And yet, their circulation meant someone, somewhere, had likely handled one without ever knowing its value. For purists, the fascination lay in the improbability. The U.S. Mint had strict protocols, quality control measures, inspections. Yet somehow, through the vast machinery and meticulous oversight, a batch of defective blanks slipped through. And not just any blanks, those that carried within them the potential to change a collector's life. Today, only a handful of these error dimes have been officially registered. Some live in safe deposit boxes. Others rest in graded slabs, labeled MS66 or MS67, quietly gaining value year over year. And yet, there remains an ever-present possibility that more are out there, waiting, in jars, in drawers, in forgotten vending machine trays. The twist, perhaps, is not that a flawed coin could be so valuable, but that it ever made it into the world at all. A silent rebellion of metal against precision. A slip in the system that became a treasure. And while Frank's original coin may have found a home long ago, he still checks his change. Not out of greed, but reverence. Because in the shuffle of commerce, in the jingle of everyday transactions, he knows one truth better than most.